First half of November 1941. Most of us, thankfully, have a very hard time even considering murdering someone, anyone. How does anyone then even consider murdering tens of thousands of people in just one day? In the autumn of 1941, the answer chosen by the SS officers on the Eastern Front is mass murder by bureaucracy. This is War Against Humanity, a sub-series of World War II in real time. I'm Spartacus Olsson. In the last weeks of October 1941, we saw how Nazi massacres in the Baltics, Belarus, and Ukraine just kept on accelerating as the Holocaust by Bullets picked up pace. Behind the Axis front lines and in occupied territories, sabotage and assassinations against the occupiers triggered retaliatory murders of civilians in the USSR, France, and Serbia, Yugoslavia. And despite that it looks futile and that the consequences are almost guaranteed to be their own death, there are those that continue to resist or even fight back against the occupiers. One of them is Masha Bruskina in Belarus, a 17-year-old girl with Jewish roots who has volunteered as a nurse to treat wounded Red Army soldiers. These wounded, who, despite being in hospital, should they recover, will still face the harsh treatment of Soviet POWs that we saw in a previous episode. So, Masha smuggles civilian clothing and fake ID papers into the hospital to help them escape. Another patient witnesses her activities and reports her to the German authorities. She's arrested and locked up in local prison on October 14th. She writes to her mother, "I am tormented by the thought that I have caused you great worry. Don't worry. Nothing bad has happened to me. I swear to you that you will have no further unpleasantness because of me. If you can, please send me my dress, my green blouse and white socks. I want to be dressed decently when I leave here." She does leave prison on the 26th, when she, a World War I veteran, and a 16-year-old boy are paraded through the streets of Minsk, with Masha forced to carry a sign stating, both in Russian and German, "We are partisans and have shot at German troops." A local witness reports, "Before noon, I saw the armed German and Lithuanian soldiers appear on the street. From over the bridge, they escorted 3 people with their hands tied behind their backs. In the middle, there was a girl with a signboard on her chest. They were led to the yeast factory gate. I noticed how calmly these people walked. The girl did not look around. When they stopped, one of the fascists started knocking on the door of my neighbor, asking for a chair. She got scared and did not open the door. In a while, I saw the Germans carrying a stool from the factory weighers booth. The factory gates were wide open. The officer threw a rope on the crossbar and made a loop. The first one led to the gallows was the girl." Another witness describes, when they put her on the stool, the girl turned her face towards the fence. The executioners wanted her to stand with her face to the crowd, but she turned away, and that was that. No matter how much they pushed her and tried to turn her, she remained standing with her back to the crowd. Only then did they kick away the stool from under her. Their bodies remained there for 3 days for the public to see. Masha is not the only helper this week that falls victim to the war against humanity. On November 6th, the Soviet ship Armenia is set to evacuate people from Sevastopol, currently under siege by the Germans. The Soviets believe that the city is about to fall into enemy hands. A couple of thousand government workers and medical personnel and their families board the ship. Captain Vladimir Plaushevsky wants to leave before dawn under cover of darkness, but he is ordered to make a second stop at nearby Yalta, where in the early morning of the 7th, another couple of thousand evacuees are taken aboard. There is no time for proper registration, and with cabins and galleys full by the first load, they are simply stowed on deck. Around 7 in the morning, the Armenia lays out from Yalta. While she has been used as a troop transport ship before and is equipped with anti-aircraft guns, she is now a hospital ship with clear, giant Red Cross demarcations. As she steams toward Tuapse, a Heinkel 111 spots her. It attacks with 2 torpedoes, sinking the Armenia, killing between 5,000 and 7,000 people on board. Only 8 survive. It remains one of the worst ship disasters in human history. But it's not just German torpedoes killing Crimeans in November. The autochthonous inhabitants of Crimea are known as Crimean Turks or Crimean Tatars. Like we've seen with Ukrainians and Volga Germans, the Soviets automatically suspect the Tatars of anti-revolutionary sentiments. Since the end of the Civil War, they have been the target of a structural ethnic annihilation campaign, including a murder famine in the early 1920s. By some estimates, as much as half of the Crimean Tatar population has perished at the hands of the Soviets between 1921 and 1941. The ones who remain are subject to a severe repressive system where the practice of their culture and faith are forbidden. Despite that, many are faithful to the USSR, and Crimean Tatars are already the second largest partisan group in the USSR, with yet many more serving in the Red Army. That doesn't concern the NKVD, who since the German invasion in June has been arresting and executing countless of Crimean civilians. Similar to when the NKVD shot Baltic and Ukrainian prisoners before making their retreat after the German invasion, they shoot all their prisoners in Simferopol on October 31st, including many women and children. As the Axis forces now close in, they shoot all prisoners in Yalta on the 5th, as well as any random passerby they encounter during their retreat through Yalta and Karasubazar. On the other side of the front lines, the Germans also continued their ethnic cleansing campaigns. From the beginning of the Holocaust of Bullets in August until the end of the year 1941, in Ukraine alone there will be 64 major mass murders that kill at least 441,414 Jewish men, women, and children. By the end of October, these southern districts of occupation have seen the highest number of murders, and the architect behind this efficiency is higher SS and police leader Friedrich Wieke, the man who orchestrated the massacre at Babi Yar at the end of September. Shooting men, women, and children at more or less point-blank range is messy, terrifying business. For an efficient kill, you have to aim for the head, but looking into the eyes and face of another human being before you pull the trigger to see their blood, skull, and brains splatter as you end their life can break the spirit of even the most jaded murderer. Disposing of the corpses requires packing them so that they fit in the mass graves, a job mostly for some POWs who then meet the same fate when they are done. Several of the SS commanders developed new tactics to increase efficiency and keep the killing machine rolling, like multiple marksmen for each victim, undressing the victims to minimize their willingness to run, turning the victims away from the firing squad so that you don't have to look them in their eyes as you kill them, making the victims kneel at the edge of the pit so that their center of gravity is lower and they tumble and fall into the mass grave when killed, and rotating all men of the unit through the firing squad to lock them in a communal and shared murderer's bond. Despite all of that, the work is slow. Suicide and breakdowns among the perpetrators are frequent, and the use of multiple marksmen is putting a strain on ammunition stores. While Karl Jäger, author of the Jäger Report and in charge of Einsatzkommando 3 in the Baltic states, is the one who perfects the methods of rounding up and transporting the victims to their final destination. It is Wieke who finally designs an assembly line method that sees the murders in Ukraine increase exponentially. It hinges on three main innovations: increased use of local militiamen and volunteers, shoot the victims from behind in the nape of the neck, and pack them like sardines by forcing the next group to be shot to lie down on the previous victims. With more men in double-row cordons to lead the victims to their death faster, dedicated men as packers to stack them, rotating firing squads that don't have to look their victims in the face, and the next shot, which minimizes splatter, is easier to hit with, and when you do, it's instant death so that it saves on ammunition. Wieke's method raises the murder rate from 5,000 to 6,000 per day to 15,000, as we saw in Babi Yar. In the north, Wieke's methods are not yet employed, but the killing is relentless there too. In Vilnius, the second yellow certificate action is the end of the lives of 2,000 Jews. In Lviv, new ghettos opened in November 1941. Before most of the surviving Jews are locked up there, another 3,000 to 5,000 are murdered. But the head of the SS Sicherheitsdienst, Reinhard Heydrich, is not satisfied with the speed. Moreover, he has started shipping Jews from Western Europe to the ghettos in Poland and the Baltic states with the idea of perhaps having them liquidated by the Einsatzgruppen in the east. So last month, on October 11th, Wieke was transferred to Riga and made higher SS and police leader of the Baltic states and parts of Yellow-Russia. He is now preparing to pick up the pace of murder there too. Back south in Rovno, continuous pogroms by the German occupiers and local civilians have resulted in the murder of 3,000 to 4,000 Jews already. Now in November, Rovno becomes the headquarters of Reichskommissar Erich Koch, head of the administration of occupied Ukraine within the Reichskommissariat Ukraine. To demonstrate that he won't tolerate any Jews in his territory and to make room to house his staff, he orders all Jewish inhabitants of Rovno to be executed. The operation is to be carried out by Wieke's former Einsatzgruppe C. As his replacement isn't here yet, the mass murder will be coordinated by the head of the Ordnungspolizei in Ukraine, Otto von Oelhafen, who will only partially employ Wieke's methods. A task force made up of Sicherheitsdienst troops, Ukrainian auxiliary police, local Wehrmacht units, and the men of Einsatzkommando 5 have Soviet POWs dig ditches in the Sozenki forest, 4 kilometers from Rovno. Some of those POWs managed to alert local partisans who try but fail to convince the local Jewish leaders to rise up against the Germans. On the 6th, a notice is posted in the Jewish ghetto stating that all without proper work papers are to assemble in the city square the next morning. Just like in Babi Yar, most convince themselves with the hope they are being resettled, pack what meager valuables they have, and gather in the city square on the morning of Friday, November 7th. Those who don't are driven out of their homes to the square at gunpoint. All in all, it's 80% of the Jews of Rovno. They are ordered to leave any belongings they brought with them behind and forced to start marching the 4 kilometers to the pits in the forest. The Germans have specifically designed the march as a gruesome parody on the Soviet parade, as the 7th is the 24th anniversary of the October Revolution. In the snowy November weather, children, women, and elderly, many without proper clothing, suffer from the cold. Towards the forest, through swampy fields of mud and snow, a slow stream of humans silently sobbing and crying, making their way forward. Their lament is regularly punctuated by shots and screams as those who try to escape or break down are shot on the spot. Now fully aware of what awaits them, the columns trod on past the dead bodies through pools of blood, guts, urine, and feces from the killed and panicked. Halfway there, they start to hear uninterrupted shooting. Row by row, they are forced on by the armed guards. As they finally enter the Sozenki forest, adults and children are separated and forced into different directions. Near the pits, the adults have to undress and walk naked in the icy air to the edge of the mass graves. Most are silent and calmly resigned to their fate, determined to die with more dignity than their murderers would afford them. They kneel, and after a shot obliterates their necks, they tumble down onto the piles of the previous victims. By not employing Wieke's sardine packing method, the work is slowed down and takes 3 days and nights to complete. By then, 17,000 men and women will have been killed in this way. Further into the forest, more pits have been prepared with the sole purpose to dispose of all the children and infants. To save on ammunition, they are not shot. Instead, their necks are broken by hand, some are stabbed with bayonets, and others thrown into the pits alive to suffocate or be crushed under the weight of the other children. In this way, during 3 days, one by one, 6,000 children are murdered. Why do I keep covering these massacres when they are almost identical? Isn't just one example enough? I don't think so. To grasp the scale of murder in the second half of 1941, it needs repeating. In just 6 months, over 1 million lives end this way. More than 1 million human beings were not given the privilege of being able to look away. Nor should we.